In today's video, I wanted to touch on a few struggles or realities that I think all photographers face, and in the moment it can make us question our abilities or our love for the craft in general, but when we zoom out, they're actually perfectly normal situations. I've got a couple of new spots to check out this morning, but to start the day I thought I'd take a quick pit stop at this old farm building that regular viewers might recognise. And the last time I photographed this, it was the start of last winter, so there was little to no greenery left, more specifically on that big tree behind the farm building there. And recently I was driving around running errands and stuff, and I noticed some of the trees, especially along the side of main roads, were starting to shift in hue to orange, and that's definitely due to the amount of heat we've had recently rather than a freakishly early autumn. But it did trigger me to actually start thinking, well, I know I've got quite a lot of places I wanted to come back to when the greenery was in full swing. Winter and summer and even spring are so vastly different when it comes to colours and the atmosphere, especially when we're talking trees. That's probably the main thing we notice change, right? So it's really worth going through your old photos, and even from years ago, and seeing if there's any in there that might actually be worth going back to in a season that you've never witnessed it in before, and seeing if that suits it better, or just seeing if you can get very different photos. So this is the one side of the building that's catching the light at the minute and casting a really beautiful shadow on the brickwork as well. And it's also, because the sun is right above the camera that I'm filming on, shining straight through a big tree, casting all this beautiful shadow and light on the floor here as well. So it's very nice where the camera is and what you're looking at right now on the screen to take a photo like that. The only problem with that particular image is that tree coming out of the side of the building is so big. The image becomes about the tree and less about the building. And I don't necessarily mind that, but I think I kind of prefer maybe coming in a lot closer and cutting off the top of the tree, maybe just showing that there's a tree there next to the building, showing some of the other bits on the floor that are growing up and stuff, perhaps from over here, so this bit of brickwork stays out the way of the building. Oh, I actually really like that. I'm gonna have to play around with this angle, this really close angle with the doorway for a bit, because the shadow inside that doorway, but then the light that's hitting the actual door is my kind of perfect combo. So I'm gonna have a little play around. Let's see if we can get a image I'm really happy with here. See this shadow line here? This bit here that's kind of higher up than the rest of the shadow line, I think points quite nicely into the building. Like that. Quite a nice vista in the background of all those trees and hills, but it still protects the subject in the sense that it still makes it feel quite secretive and in the middle of nowhere and kind of lost. Just a mini trek, I would say, to this next spot for the day. There's two that are kind of close together, old mine works. So I'm really looking forward to checking these out. From reference images that I've seen from the past online, it looks like they might be pretty interesting, and also the heather is still out, which would be nice if there's some surrounding those areas. Could really help with some interest for the photos. But yeah, look at this for a beautiful day. If you've ever seen an untouched area more untouched than this, then I don't know where that would be, because as far as untouched goes, it's pretty flawless, if I'm honest. I thought this was kind of cool, with these heather patches in the foreground here, and the I'm going to call it a chimney. The chimney in the background. And I think it's quite cool because the chimney kind of pops out of the landscape and you don't really get a sense of too much what's actually up there near the chimney. Kind of just gives you a sense of it. And I guess this is probably a little bit more traditional than I would like, maybe, I'm not sure. patch to the left and then another patch there. So we've got 3 nice patches, and they kind of go in a diagonal line, and then the last one sits directly in front of the chimney. So, and hopefully that will create a nice diagonal into the chimney. In my head anyway. That's what I'm visualizing in my head. And let me just check that the audio is actually on. Hello, 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 yes it is. I've been enjoying myself so much this morning that I kind of forgot about what I was actually supposed to be talking about in this video, so we should probably get into the first struggle or reality that I think all photographers go through, and it's totally fine that we do. And the first one is what I call the blank canvas effect. I guess it's another form of creative block really, and for this particular example I want to focus on, you know, knowing where to go to shoot each week, finding new locations, and perhaps developing a new photography project. Let's say you've got a huge list of locations, and over the last few months you've been smashing through those locations, shooting them one after the other, and you're just loving life, and it's made it quite effortless to pick up your camera gear each week and just go. You haven't got to think about where you're going, you haven't got to sit on Google Maps and find new subjects. You just have them all ready there for you to go and have a good time. And on these mini streaks that we go on, like I say, photography can feel quite effortless, not in the sense that, you know, actually getting the great images is effortless, but just the motivation to get up and go and do it can feel really effortless. You haven't got to think, like I say, about where you're going. And when that comes to the end, or when a photo project comes to the end, or when you're stuck for new places to go, we're faced with a blank canvas. So the task in front of us when we have got a blank canvas is essentially much harder on our, you know, mental state than it is when we've got all these locations that we don't have to think about researching, and we can just go to them and tick them off and have a fantastic time. In a few weeks' time I'm going to southwest Scotland for a few days, and originally when I had the idea to do this I was looking at the map of southwest Scotland and thinking, I've never set foot there, I don't know anything about the area, I don't know any history, I've got no pinned locations, and I started questioning whether I should even do that trip at all, or whether I should just go somewhere that I kind of know, I'm kind of familiar with. This was literally the blank canvas effect in full effect, because I was looking at an empty map and it felt just a bit too much of a big of a task. And all you have to really do in these moments is remind yourself that when you had all of those locations previously, or when you were deep in a photography project previously, you once also had to do that hard part at the start where you find your way, you found your locations, you do your research, and you can get to that flow state again, you can get to that big list of locations that you want to tick off again. It just takes a little bit more work, maybe perhaps a little bit more time sat at the desk, unfortunately. But in the meantime, where you are doing that research and looking into a new area, looking into a new photography project and trying to gather ideas, you can still go out and continue doing photography, but maybe just revisit some spots you already know, spots you're really familiar with, just experiment, have fun, play around. And normally I find that doing that actually just leads you back in the right direction anyway, and you end up sparking an idea from doing that, or you chip away at the research behind the scenes, and before you know it, you're actually ready to go again and explore these new areas. Alright, check out this frame for a juxtaposition. In the front here we have all these dead plants, and at the base of the chimney and on the left hand side we have the heather. Cutting through the middle there we have a nice pathway that kind of divides the two, and you kind of have dead and alive on that side, and then again we've got that nice light to shadow wrap around there. So I'm going to take a frame exactly like you're looking here, but a bit wider so there's a bit more space above the chimney there. This big bunch of heather down here is going to fill the foreground of the frame, and then the heather's also going to dapple off down up to the chimney. But what I love from here is on the left hand side, can you see that shadow fall off from the chimney there? So if I can position myself high enough shooting handheld, you're going to get that really nice shadow just leading up the bank. And again, especially with the shadow side of the chimney and the shadow coming off it, I think that's going to make it feel really nice and dynamic, despite the fact that it's nearly midday now. This is such a fantastic location. This bit on the other side feels like you're at the beach or something, because there's even like sand at the edge of the water over there, and just with the grass, the reedy grass that you would kind of find at sand dunes and stuff, it feels like you're at the coast. And then on the other side, it's very apparent that you're in the countryside in the middle of the moors. Yeah, super interesting. There's definitely 100% potential for some photos this way, including the water. But let's get into the next reality, or the next struggle for this video, and it's time. Now, everyone's free time every single week is completely different, and it probably changes week to week, month to month as well. But I don't think there's a single photographer or creative person out there that wishes they had less time to do their hobby. Imagine thinking, I've got so much time to practice photography that I'm actually bored. Imagine. I don't think that exists, really, does it? And I think one of the main problems is it can seem like on social media, YouTube, or any platform really, that other people are always out all the time, always shooting, always at new locations. It might look like that on my channel too. And that can obviously leave you feeling a little bit deflated as a viewer or somebody that's actively on social media if you don't get much time to shoot yourself. But you have to remember, one, we're only seeing a small slice of everyone's life. So, you know, when I upload a weekly video, that's normally just one day out of my week. And the other thing is that it's really all only relative to our own lives, because like I say, I don't think there's any photographer or creative person out there that wishes they had less time to do photography. And I think all creative people across any medium all feel like they're somewhat playing catch up, or their task list is never ending, or they've just got so much to do and so much what they want to achieve and not enough time to do it in. So basically, somebody that could be shooting 3, 4, 5 times a week then has 3, 4, 5 times more photos or more days of photos to then get through and edit. So it kind of all balances out, and unfortunately it is quite normal, and we do just have to be happy with the time that we've got to practice our hobbies. The only variable that actually matters for us in our individual lives is how we spend the time rather than how much time we have, because like I say, we all wish we had more time to do our hobby, but how we spend that free time is literally the most valuable variable. So if you have one free day a week and you go out and you shoot and you have a fantastic day out and you get 1 or 2 images you're really happy with, that's more than likely going to make you feel really accomplished and happy and keep you powering on through to the next week when you get another day to shoot. Whereas if you stay in bed in the morning and watch Netflix and then go downstairs and rearrange your cutlery drawer and order a McDonald's, then yeah, that's probably not going to make you feel fulfilled in the photography world. Nothing wrong with ordering a McDonald's, by the way. You could smash a McDonald's right now. Got a slight feeling that I just recorded a load of stuff down there close to the chimney while I was taking photos and talking through my ideas, and the mic was turned off. So if that was the case, sorry about that. There's not a lot I can do about it. I can commentate it over the top if I have any thoughts that I feel like are really worth sharing in this video, but if not, then many apologies. But I only came over here because I spotted something over there which I'll go over to and we'll talk about in a minute. But yeah, should really get better at checking the microphone, seeing as I make YouTube videos. So a couple of little boyos that I spotted just a bit further away from the chimney is this wooden construction, which I assume has something to do with the sheep, maybe held their food or something. But more specifically, the fact that there's a panel here that's fallen off, which means there might be a nice potential to frame the chimney through that and just have a bit more of a kind of dynamic shot with a bit more layers. Yeah, so it's actually a lot easier than I thought, but I am on my wider lens here at about 20mm, and I like that the light is catching the top board and this side's really dark, which should create a really nice frame around the image that actually has some gradient to it. It's not just dark space. And then we can get the chimney in there in the distance. We can do a landscape version, we can do a portrait version. We'll have a little play around. Should be nice. You'll notice there's this little gap here at the top, and I kind of want to come in and get rid of that gap so we have a complete frame around the image. So grab a couple of shots here. So the last struggle or reality to wrap up this video before I go home and cuddle my dog for the next 24 hours and edit some photos and all of the good things that life has to offer is photographers hitting a brick wall. This one's something I've experienced a fair few times, and something that's even in the past made me question whether photography is even like the correct craft for me, and whether I even liked it as much as I thought I did, and had me thinking maybe I'm just doing photography because it's all I know. And I had that little back and forth with me, but it was actually because I'd just hit a brick wall with photography in terms of my subject matter and the medium, shall we say, that I was photographing. And I think this is definitely one that comes with how long you've done photography. I think if you do photography for years upon years upon years, you might hit this brick wall multiple times. Normally it takes quite a long time for you to hit a brick wall, but I do think every photographer eventually will hit some kind of wall where they kind of question what it is they're doing and the why behind their photographs. And the thing that makes this one the worst, I think, is that when we do hit a brick wall and we start questioning our abilities or our general image quality that we're putting out or something like that, is we start to then kind of sway off in the direction of thinking about gear and thinking, oh, maybe I need a new camera. Maybe that's what it is that's holding me back and making me not like my images. Maybe my lens is not good enough and that's why I don't like my images. Maybe we even question the way we're editing our images or the actual medium we're shooting on. And while I do think there's a time and a place to drastically swap out your gear, or maybe just pick up a particular camera that's going to excite you and inspire you again, before you do any of that, there's so many free ways you can make a drastic change to your photography and your creative life without spending a penny. Making a drastic change that's free first is a fantastic way to find out whether it was just a new hit of something you needed, new subjects, new locations, a different way of doing things, perhaps shooting in black and white instead of colour, perhaps shooting 1:1 images instead of full aspect ratio images. There's so many different ways you can make a drastic change. Off the top of my head, you could shoot a different genre. You could stop shooting only golden hour and swap to the middle of the day, or nighttime photography. You could be somebody that never ever has people in your images, so you start taking photos with people in your images even if you're not comfortable getting up close and personal with people. You could just have them in there as a figure. I've said before in one of my videos, I'm a big fan of taking a holiday from your passion while still doing the passion. So, if you're a landscape photographer, you can take a little holiday and a little break from landscape photography, but continue doing photography in a different way. So you're still doing the thing that you love, you're just taking a holiday from your main love within that art form. And oftentimes you'll find that taking that holiday either does send you off down a completely new route, a completely new direction that you're actually really happy with, or you enjoy that holiday for a bit, but then you actually circle back to what it was you loved in the first place, and all it is, you needed a bit of a break to come back refreshed and recharged. Well, I do sincerely hope that what I spoke about in this video made sense, because I don't know why I'm having a bit of a struggle talking to a camera recently. I guess that's a struggle for me to work through. I think it's because I've got so much going on at the minute, have done previously for the last couple of weeks, and have for the next month or so. So it's causing me to struggle to get my thoughts into one place, I think. But today's definitely helped. Getting out, exploring, taking a few images, scouting a bit, and rambling onto the camera. So as always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Hope you got something positive out of it. And as always, I'll see you in the next video.